Hello again, party people. How's it going? All right. Welcome back to China, New China. Uh, I don't know. Everyone seems to be pretty happy here. So, no one's moving out. Nothing's getting destroyed. I thought Omega was going to for sure turn the city, only got a couple collapsed buildings. I thought this was going to be a destruction from the inside a lot faster, but it's not happening. So, I think I'm going to start to get rid of some of the services for people. I'm going to get rid of some of the hospital stuff, and I'm going to replace everything with drones. I'm going to put medical drones, police drones, and just make it so that there's like very limited services, and see if that helps people. Uh, helps the struggle, helps people struggling. By that I mean I hope they start to move out and this place collapses so I can start over. My gambling, yeah, it'll make more crime, but it's not eating enough of my revenue. Got a long way to go for the city to collapse, but I think we can do it. Um, this talk I have for you today covers some topics. Covers just kind of being present and some of the ways that we can be in the world after discovering, this wonderful, loving awareness. I talk a little bit. I have some metaphors like, paper and pens and a golden path of presence. These are all interesting things to think about, or not, but I hope that it's enjoyable for some of you, if not all of you. And I also wish you a wonderful day. Be well. Without further ado, here is the golden path of presence. Greetings. Hello. Thank you for being here. Let's take a moment to sit and or stand or walk, whatever you want. But let's just take a moment to check in. And we can do that very simply by breathing. So I invite you to bring the attention back to your breath. And notice that subtle rising and falling of the chest. If you're breathing through the nose, you can focus your attention right at the tip of your nose, right below the tip. And let's just watch how we react or not react. You can notice if our thoughts wander. If they wander, bring it back to the breath. And let's take 3 deep breaths in and out. In and out. And one more time, in and out. It's a beautiful thing when we can allow ourselves just a couple moments in our busy days to come back to that breath. And in doing the breath, we can let go of the stream of thoughts that have been guiding our progress for millennia, on and on. That space that we allow ourselves to come back into of awareness has actually been there longer than our thoughts have been. The amount of stuff that's been going on is just a itty bitty drop in the bucket of awareness. So once we come into this loving, gentle beingness, we're allowed to just let everything be as it is. There's nothing to do. There's really nothing to say. Having the now and the here is something very sacred. It's always with us. And although it's always with us, sometimes we forget where we are, when we are. Sometimes you ask, like, oh, Tony, what if I get lost in the moment? How am I supposed to get stuff done? I can't just be loving awareness forever. Well, that's an interesting thought. It's figuring out what we want to do and how we want to live, what we want to accomplish. Those are important things. I don't think most of us, I don't really know anybody, but most of us don't want to create suffering. Most of us enjoy being happy and spreading happiness to other people. The intent to hurt or cause pain to others is kind of, well, it's being completely bought into the idea of separation. Thinking that your subjective life is more important than other people or things. And that subjective viewpoint can give you a lot of stuff. You can put yourself in opposition, put yourself into different games, and you can come away with a lot of things. And it's sad when we're just stuck in that role of preservation or trying to gain, trying to beat or win, because we don't realize this eternal, ever-present thing that is connecting all of us. It's not even a thing, it's a home. You know, nobody needs to actually be enlightened. We are all enlightened. If you say, oh, I want to be enlightened, that means you just want to make sense of this experience that we are all in. Right livelihood is kind of interesting because once you become enlightened, you're like, oh, there's nothing else to do. So what am I supposed to do? And the answer to that is that you're supposed to be present. You're supposed to be in the moment. And whatever happens in this moment, as long as you're present with your awareness, it paves a golden path. And every step that you take in the present moment, being aware, you're creating gold underneath you. And this golden path is something that flows like a river. And that river splits off into tiny other rivers. And the reason why we do things present, being in the present, being aware of our actions, is in the faith that some of these golden streams that are stemming off from behind us, from our actions, eventually end up in front of us. I do something nice for somebody, they do something nice for somebody, that person does something nice for me in the future. That's an example. It's not just to help people or to get people to do stuff for you, but it's a way of interacting with your environment so that you start to shape tomorrow, not in the way that you necessarily want, but just in the way that it should be. If you're really working hard to make something happen, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. Sometimes it'll turn out to be something completely different. And what was that experience like when you were making that outcome happen? What, in that moment of making something, how are you? Are you aware? Are you thinking ahead? Are you overthinking? Are you not thinking enough? There's certain things that just that can never be enough. Like time, just never enough time. Our bodies are decaying, the environment's changing, and all along, time keeps going. Time is like the process that things change. And the process doesn't change. The process is always going and going. The same with doing better. You can always do better and better and better. So that process of always being able to be better will never stop. And all along we are just changing and moving and going. And so to have this mindful presence of where are we, when are we can let go of some of the concepts of being better or worse, not doing enough, is this the right time, And getting into the moment, if you can get right on that edge
right to the very tip of the moment, you can see concepts as processes that are going, and you are part of those. And there's nothing that you're doing, but these things are going. And what do you have left? Well, you have your intention, and you have you have the beingness. You have that transcendent connection that unites everything as one. I like to call that loving awareness. There's no name for it because it's something that transcends a language. What is that which processes language? Your mind. Well, what is that is that process is being sent to? And that is your experience. That is who you are. You are being projected upon concepts, words, ideas. And so how are you going to be with those things that are projected? I think it's smart to look at it like loving awareness because it takes the next step in the spiritual awakening. You become enlightened and you realize your true self. And at that point, people can go into what they call the dark night of the soul, which is kind of like, oh, well, if there's nothing to do, if I'm nothing, if there is, if we're all one and everything is and it's all perfect, then there, then it's just blah, you know? You take the next step and then you become voluntarily integrated with everything that's going on. You form a relationship with separateness which holds no judgment towards what's happening. You can have the perspective of your place in the environment, which is our bodies and our our societal status, whatever. And you can let that process run its course. And behind that process, you're loving awareness. So that you start using your body as a tool or an avatar to spread the love, the transcendent beingness through everything. Just by being who you know who you are. So we don't get stuck in the dark night of the soul because we take the next step to engage with life. And that engagement is going to be a loving, present acceptance. It's a very feminine, I think this is where the feminine comes in. Because you have a masculine attitude or energy that is getting stuff done, that is actually taking that step to interact and to do things. And you have the feminine aspect coming in and saying, well, this is how, this is how you treat things in the relationship with love. You bring this concept of love and acceptance and you mix that with all the stuff that's going on, and there's your dance, your feminine and masculine dance. So now you know how to work with inside of our predicament. it gets really hard to have this attitude towards life at some points. You know, sometimes it's awesome. You're at a party, you got a little bit high, you know, you're just loving life. And then sometimes, you know, someone close to you dies, you get your heart broken, and you're like, man, I am not feeling the love right now. And when you have to realize that the highs and the lows, those are things that are happening in the context that your mind is giving you. And when we practice meditation or chanting, all these different spiritual things, that is a method to go past the mind projections into a level of equanimity. And you say, okay, the highs and the lows are there. These feelings are very extreme at times. And when they get too extreme, let's take it back. Let's become a witness to what those feelings and thoughts have become. And once you're ready to start going back and involving yourself again in life, you've cultivated at least a space from just stepping back from the drama where you can now hold that space and move forward a little bit the way you want to move forward, not unconsciously. And it is absolutely fine to give yourself a break every now and then. If you need to chill, you know, and get your bearings back, you're allowed to. And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't have time, you know, there's a lot of stuff I need to do. I don't have time to just say, well, yes, you do. But will you allow yourself that? Is it precious enough for you to give yourself some space to come back into that loving, kind awareness that not only surrounds everything, but goes in and out of everything? This loving awareness is the contrast to all the stuff that happens. It's like the paper that you write upon. All the drawings that you have, those are the things that happen. Those are the stories. And then the paper that these things are being drawn on, that is the relationship. It's this loving, holding embrace. It's not rejecting. It's not saying, oh, you can't draw that there. It's allowing the processes to unfold. And then at some point, some of these pictures start to become aware that they're pictures. You start to wonder, what am I being drawn upon? And then the picture starts to form itself a representation or maybe even a portal to the paper. It gives itself some space and says, hey, everyone, look, it's paper. It's a space of paper. It's what we have all come from. It's part of all of us. Without that piece, we have nothing to be drawn upon. We don't exist. So I'm saying that paper is that unifying connection that we all have with each other. It's our love and our awareness, our beingness. And that ink, it gets very creative in how it, you know, on how it looks. It can create some really dramatic pictures for us. And also we're accepting that we are all, you know, we are the paper and the ink and the images. we can accept all of that. We can say these things that are being drawn are part of us. It's representation of our soul. So I enjoy spiritual practice. I would encourage I would encourage everybody to have a spiritual practice. It's pretty cool. And through that practice, we can start to cultivate areas leading us back to our beingness, our okayness. And we can then engage with the world with that loving, caring, acceptance, awareness, so that it allows for things to be created. We can be without guilt and shame and let others shine that light that's deep within them. If you start noticing stories coming up, people are saying, this happened, that happened, they want you to be engaged, and that's fine to be engaged. Accept who these people are, accept the light that's within them, look at it, all of these things as precious pointers. You can always be aware, you can always be in the moment. And when we get mind stuff coming, let it come. It's okay to get caught up, then come back. And keep coming back and coming back. And you'll start to see that the path that you're walking, every step you take, is a good step. It's okay. The steps are okay. It's not good or bad. You're not attached to what's going on. But yeah, I can do this. And in walking in that okayness, you're going to start to see other steps, other okay steps being made. And eventually the entire paths that are being created are paths of gold. They're changing from an unconscious processy, a runoff process into a conscious, accepting, golden path where whatever happens, whatever the outcome is okay. Let's take a couple moments and just sit and allow for that wonderful settling that's within our hearts. Allow that settling, loving presence into our beautiful lives.